born during the war, so my memories of the war are not very many, but my parents used to talk to me about it, and what I do remember is the siren that used to go off. There was a 5-minute warning to tell people that there was going to be a bombing raid, and you had 5 minutes to get you out of bed, put your clothes on and run across the road to the air raid shelters. One night my mother said there was a raid and they were too late. As they got out of the house, the bombers were above the house, and she said it just looked as though our guns were firing at them and they were dropping bombs on us. And my mother said, my sisters, who were 15 years older than me, said, "Oh look, Mummy, it's fairyland." She said, "Just forget fairyland and hurry up and get across the road into the shelter." And we used to go down into the shelter in the ground, which was in the schoolyard, and it had big mounds of grass on the top for camouflage. After the war, that was all flattened and the school went back to having a normal playground. After the war, we at the time we were living at Redcar, and after the war we were allowed to go on the beach, but it still had mines on and barbed wire, so we just had a tiny little track that you could go on, and there was a man in a big black coat and a whistle, and you were allowed 10 minutes. So when the whistle blew, you had to get off, and the next lot of people went down onto the beach and the sea just for 10 minutes. After the war, food was rationed. Well, it was during the war, but it remained until about the middle of the 1950s. Food and clothing was still rationed. So we could only have 2 ounces or 4 ounces of sweets once a week, but there wasn't any chocolate. We had locust beans, which looked like black bananas, and they were hard and tasted horrible, a bit like bitter chocolate, but disgusting, so we didn't like them. So our mothers used to give us sticks of rhubarb out of the garden with some sugar, and we dipped the sugar and the sour rhubarb, and it was delicious. We liked it. I have a photograph here of my father when he was in the First World War. He was in the Royal Engineers. And have you got that?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was exempt during the Second World War, but he was a warden patrolling the streets when the bombers came over. And one night the wardens had gone round to the houses and collected a lot of men and told them that when you get the warning, when you hear the sirens go off, we want you to set all the hedges, garden hedges, on fire. And that's exactly what happened. All over Redcar, hedges were burnt because we were right next to the steelworks where the bombers were going to come. And the following day, in the German newspapers, it said they had had a successful raid and wiped out Redcar. But in actual fact, they hadn't. They hadn't done anything at all, and no one was killed. That was good.